Hey guys, welcome to the God Case of Wanderlust podcast. My name is Lydia, and I have had wanderlust or a desire to travel coursing through my veins since pretty much birth. So I created this podcast to share my travel experiences as well as other guests to inspire you to embark on your own travel dreams and hopefully do so mindfully and more sustainably. One thing to point out is that I was raised in the United States, so my worldview is based in Western ideology, but I aim to expand and grow my perspective through experiencing new places and having meaningful conversations with people of all backgrounds. So, if you share my passion for traveling, let's journey around the world together, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the God of Case and Wanderlust podcast. I'm so excited today because I'm here with Vini at Vini Goes Global. And Vini is a lead travel writer for Travel Off Path, who has written over 750 articles during his journalism career with the focus on off the beaten path experiences and destinations. So, welcome to the podcast, Vini.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here speaking to you all.
I'm honored that you took time out of your busy travel schedule to talk with me today. I know that you just got back from Georgia. I saw off your recent Instagram post that you had an incredible experience. Do you want to share like a little bit about that trip?
That is correct. I was recently in Georgia, the country in the Caucasus, not the USA. Some people might not be aware there's a country named Georgia in Eurasia, but it's a gorgeous little, tiny country, sort of nestled between Eastern Europe and Western Asia. It's part of the post-Soviet world. You have, that brutalist architecture and also beautiful Orthodox churches and amazing food. I was actually there to cover a new hotel opening with Travel of Path. Um, so we explored the Kakheti region in Georgia, which is where wine originated thousands of years ago. So super interesting. There'll be an article coming out on that. Yeah, it's a gorgeous place, and I feel everyone should pay it a visit.
Yeah, I mean, it looked absolutely like stunning. The pictures that you posted, the place that you stayed in. How many days were you there, and was it your first time?
It was actually my second time in Georgia. So I visited last year as a leisure trip, and then the second time round again as a work trip. I stayed roughly just over a week. I actually arrived a bit sooner than I was meant to because it's not the easiest place to get to. There's not that many non-stop flights. Um, so I was in Tbilisi, which is the capital of Georgia, for a week, which has become this huge digital nomad hotspot for nomads globally. And then we, took a van to this the Georgian hinterland, basically, where you have all these beautiful family-owned vineyards and quirky hotels, and it's at the foot of the Caucasus, which is the natural continental divide between Europe and Asia. So yeah, really fascinating stuff.
And it looks like you stayed in this, like, huge pottery sort of place, like, the like, the hotel looks
Yeah.
like it's shaped like a clay pot, so that's super unique.
Yeah. They call it an amphora. It's the giant, like clay jugs wine was made in, thousands of years back, like in ancient. I don't know if they did it in ancient Greece. Definitely in Coaches, which is like ancient Georgia. And yeah, the rooms are shaped like amphoras, and they really wanna, um, bring back that tradition and just keep it alive and moving forward. And the wine, of course, is it's just indescribable.
I mean, being the birthplace of wine, it has, like, a name to live up to, I guess, so
Absolutely, yeah, and they certainly do. I'll tell you that.
and then just getting into your career in travel writing to even land this kind of gig, which is a dream for many, how did you kinda get started in the industry?
Yeah, I've actually been writing exclusively for Travel of Path for almost 3 years now. I started in December 2021, sort of out of the blue. I saw their advert online. They were hiring new writers, and I thought I'd send in a sample, see what it happens. I remember it was the day before Christmas. I was in the UK at the time. Um, so I just sent it out, and I definitely wasn't expecting to even get like considered because they have this huge following. It's the largest independent travel news source in North America with millions of readers monthly. But I was selected. And thank God, and yeah, I was able to kickstart this career, which is, as you've said, it's a literal dream. I get to travel the world and see all these places, and I basically get paid to do what I love, which is the goal, I guess.
Yeah, so kind of going back, what even sparked your wanderlust to, see these places and then write about them?
Yeah, I would say it was definitely stemming from the pandemic period. I just thought to myself, well, once this whole thing is through, once to see these through, I would love to just get out there and see as many countries as possible and make up for lost time, which I feel many travelers probably feel that way, like they're making up for lost time.
Yeah, and do you remember like your first writing assignment for Travel Off Path? Like, what was that whole experience like?
Absolutely. So my first story, if I'm not mistaken, it was covering the booster requirement for Austria. Because at one point, not that long ago, Austria did require travellers to get vaccinated before coming into the country. Um, so that was the first pitch I sent out. It was actually my sample, which ended up being published as my first feature story. So that was really exciting to see. But yeah, it was still in the realm of COVID and travel restrictions and all that.
Hmm. Okay. And would you say you have a pretty solid background in journalism? Like, did it start kind of with general journalism, then moving towards travel writing, or did it start like traveling and then diving into the writing world?
Well, to be quite honest with you, and as in terms of professional journalism, this would be my first official gig. I have blogged before. In my teen years, I used to, run my own blogs, reviewing albums and books I read. But yeah, it was never something I thought would end up being my a profession. I take it day by day, and hopefully it's gonna, it's gonna become a long term thing.
And can you remember the first destination that kind of exceeded maybe your expectations? Because now you focus on, like I mentioned in the beginning, or less visited destinations. So have you visited anywhere where, you had an idea of a place, but when you went there, it was like completely different?
Oh my God, there's been several of those. The one that pops to mind now is Albania, which is another one of these tiny, unheard of European countries. That that don't really see lots of tourists, but there's still somehow that misconception that it's dangerous to visit or there is not that much to see because there's not that many people going compared to the likes of Italy, France, or Spain. And when I got there, it's the absolute clearest Mediterranean coast, lots of beautiful Greco-Roman ruins to explore, gorgeous ancient couple towns. And the best thing about it is no tourists whatsoever to photobomb you. um, yeah, definitely, and absolutely safe. That's the most relevant thing, I'm a strong believer that you have to go and check it out for yourself. You have to take your own conclusions. Is that how you say it? Um,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like you have to make your own conclusions and visit
make your own
yourself.
conclusion. Yeah, 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 yeah. Sorry, it's three languages dancing in my brain all the time.
You call that trilingual, right? So you could speak fluently three languages?
Yeah, yeah. So there is English, Portuguese, and then French, which is the one I'm speaking mostly every day. So of course, I'm living in France. Yeah, it definitely helps being multicultural and traveling and.
Most definitely. I think that languages are such a connective force, and it is kind of isolating when you're in somewhere and you don't know the language, which is why it's so important to at least attempt to learn some of the local language when you visit a new place to, again, have deeper immersion. So now that you've visited, it seems like so many destinations, you've written hundreds of articles. What are some destinations that you could write endless pieces about?
I'm most passionate about again the least known, sometimes seriously underrated countries, and I'm more of a cultural guy. I'm not into like resorts, and of course that's nice every now and then, but I'm mostly looking for a cultural immersion. Like I love just landing somewhere new, and it's completely different from the Western world where I grew up in, and you're sort of exposed to a different reality. So I could write non-stop on the likes of again Albania, Georgia, even certain parts of Turkey. Look, Turkey is quite a popular country. It's definitely become trendier now, but like Eastern Turkey, that's not really widely known for tourism. And then still they have these gorgeous, dramatic landscapes and mountains, and it's still part of the wider ancient Orthodox world, nearer the border with the Caucasian countries. So yeah, all these like weird, unexpected regions or countries that don't really get their time in the limelight.
Yeah, wow, those are all some wonderful countries that I hope to visit one day. Um, and just like a side note, the word Caucasian, how we kind of throw it around a lot for like people who are white. But do you maybe want to explain, like, kind of,
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So the Caucasus is a region in between Eastern Europe and Western Asia. It's called the Caucasus. It's traversed by the Caucasus mountain range. The word Caucasian probably originates from that as well. But yeah, it's a region comprised mainly of three countries and then parts of Russia, Azerbaijan, and surrounding areas. But yeah, it's a geographical definition. It's of course it's related to the maybe the ethnicity. I don't know if the Caucasian peoples come from there, but yeah, I mean it as in the geographical location.
right, not in the way that we colloquially use it to refer to the skin
Not
color
at
of
all.
people in the United States,
No,
for
not at
example.
all.
Yeah, I think it's really important to dive deeper into the words that we kind of throw around every single day and just explore the origins and the original meaning because there's so many phrases that we just toss around and they could have either really problematic origins or we just may be using them problematically just because it's not the way it's intended. So, yeah, just a side note. And then, in addition to the destinations that are more underrated. You still write about countries that are highly visited, but focus specifically on underrated parts within that country. So, I guess what are some cities or places within certain countries you'd like to share?
Well, I live in France, which is the most visited country in the world. I think we hosted over 100 million visitors last year. And there is so much to see. I know Paris. I live in Paris. It's of course a gorgeous city. You know, you have all these Haussmann era buildings, and of course there's the twinkling Eiffel and Notre Dame and all that, which is great. But you have a whole country that is the size of maybe a mid-size US day, and there's so much to see around. There's nature. There's tiny villages that are untouched by tourism, and even some of the smaller cities. They have lots of charm as well. I could cite. Bordeaux in the south. What else do we have? There's Strasbourg near the German border, which is very distinct for the Germanic architecture. France is very diverse, and I feel most tourists will land in Paris and feel they've got a good grasp of what France is, but not really. It's literally only one city. It's not representative at all of the entire country.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, like to emphasize visiting multiple places within a country and not
The
just
capital, yeah.
speculating yeah, like the capital or like our one experience in one specific place and generalizing that for the whole culture because anywhere is so nuanced. And even if you live somewhere, like you live in France, there's still so many things yet to discover. And even, yeah, even living somewhere for so long, you can never truly discover the, the character of a place. Do you have any more advice to share? Like, how can we get off the beaten path when we travel and really get that more immersive experience, to experience somewhere on a deeper level?
That is a great question. What I tend to do myself, when I'm looking for the next destination, I narrow down my interests. So basically, I love ancient stuff, and I love these like cute little historic towns with cobbled streets. But yeah, once you verge off like the major cities, you just take a train into the hinterland, and you just instantly find so much more as well. Even Paris, like just last week, I went to this tiny town that I never see in travel brochures. I just thought the name was interesting. I thought I'd go and check it out. Of course, I had a quick Google in advance. It has this gorgeous cathedral, so I thought I might as well go and check it out. It's called Chartres. It's 1 hour away from Paris. Or even a shorter distance on a train. That there's barely any tourists out, and you have this amazing like UNESCO listed cathedral. There's canals, a super picturesque, postcard perfect old town.
I think nowadays with itineraries and like social media and these crafted, top 10
Yep.
lists of somewhere to visit in a place, it creates such a sanitized, for lack of a better word, experience of a place. Like it really boxes you into a certain I- itinerary, and you fail then to really discover a place through your own eyes.
Absolutely, I definitely agree with you on that one. And of course, you're going to have like bucket list items. If you're coming to Paris for starters, of course, you're going to go and check out the Eiffel and Montmartre. Um, but yeah, if you focus on your interests, you're going to start realizing that there's just so much more to see. Yeah, like just follow your gut, your interest, and it will take you to that secret gem.
Yeah, and I mean, I just love the reason this podcast is named Wanderlust is, well, by definition, it means love of travel, but the term wandering is just so lovely to capture the travel experiences I love to have is just not having a plan and just kind of, like you said, following your curiosities, following what catches your eye, or just, really tuning into yourself and tuning out what the so-called like best best places to visit lists call for. So speaking of, are there any overrated places you want to like give a PSA about that
That
you
is a
should visit?
controversial one. Um, um, gosh, yeah. if we're to focus on Europe, which is where I have the most traveling experience in, I would say maybe Dublin in Ireland. Now, hear me out. If there's any Irish listeners out there, I bloody love Ireland. I actually lived in Northern Ireland for, on and off for several years. I love the country. I think it's got gorgeous nature. I love the small cities, all the parks and, the Atlantic coast. It's truly fascinating. But the capital, it's a hard no for me. Like, it's overpriced. It's super touristy. I can't name a single iconic Dublin landmark.
Noted. I've never been to Ireland, but if any Irish people are out there from Dublin, if you
Yeah.
know any cool spots to visit otherwise, please let me know. Let us know. And just since you're from Paris and we're speaking about overrated destinations, Paris is often noted as one of those places. And I feel like people have such mixed opinions. People, it's like New York. You either love it or hate it. So, as your home base, why did you choose Paris and has your opinion changed living there versus, from your first visits?
Yeah, well, I'm living here because I met someone special. So that was the fuel behind my move. Because as I said before, I was based in between the UK and Ireland. Um, Yeah, during my first visit, I've always liked Paris. I won't lie to you. I've always felt it's an elegant city. To me, it's the quintessential like European city. It's at the heart of the continent. You have the gorgeous architecture. You have the leafy boulevards. You have the ancient side, and but of course, like any over touristed place, it can lose some of that shine, I would say, especially when it's just being like regurgitated and there's just been so many articles in Paris. And living here now, I can the longer you stay anywhere, you start seeing beauty where tourists would normally who were here for like 3 4 days wouldn't even have the time to see her. So as I said, I go on these long walks. I find cool artsy stuff that wouldn't necessarily fit in an action-packed 3 day itinerary. I visit all the niche museums, not the Louvre, not Orsay, things that actually pique, what's the word, pique my interest. Um, yeah, the longer you stay somewhere, you're starting to find appreciation for where you live, for sure.
That's I thought you were gonna say you start to develop, like, a disdain for the place you live
Ah,
because I think that's also the
yeah,
flip side of living somewhere is you also see the negatives. Because as a tourist, you kinda see, like, the highlight reels.
yeah,
Um
yeah. I think I approached it from the negative experience from coming from a tourist who didn't like
Oh,
Paris.
yeah.
Yeah, but definitely there's disdain. I I would say. Once you see beauty every day, it starts feeling like a common thing. Like I don't stop to take pictures of the Eiffel anymore. Do you know what I mean?
In my experience, I absolutely loved Paris, and I think if you come in with a certain like expectations of the way that the media portrays it, like a whole big movie scene, then yeah, maybe it won't live up to your expectations because it's a city. I mean, people live there. It's real life. It's dirty. That's also true. Like um and it could be a bit much if you're not expecting that. So I think it's all about like frame of mind when you visit somewhere, and having an open mind.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree on that one. I mean, there's been places I've been told by people who've been before, which they didn't like that they weren't worth visiting. So even before going, I had this negative preconception of what it would feel like. And I'm wondering, because sometimes that did turn out to be true, but I wonder to which extent their experience sort of impacted or even tarnished on mine. Because you get all these articles calling let's bring it back to Paris, calling it overrated and dirty and all that. Um, so yeah, I would say it definitely influences the way people view different destinations and what they expect. But again, you have to go and see it for yourself. You might be wrong. They
Yeah.
might be wrong.
Mhm. It's just it brings back to the point like everyone's experience is subjective. One's favorite country may be like somewhere you don't particularly love, but you only know until you actually visit. Which is why relying on the media to craft, which places to visit isn't always the best tactic. Sometimes you just gotta go and see what happens.
Yep, yep. Which is why we at the Travel of Path we like to give a nuanced perspective.
Would you have any travel or advice for aspiring travel writers?
Um, yeah, just be honest, I guess. I just absolutely loathe when forgive me for being crass, like read bullshit. I want to hear your brutally honest opinion on what you've experienced, on what you've done. Don't sugarcoat it. Give me the good and bad. The the ugly. It's just as important as the positive side. And yeah, just honesty and be true to yourself. When writing, that's when you get the the most out of your own content.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that advice. And then just some wrap up questions. Would you be willing to share a special place in your heart? Just one?
I would say my favorite city in the world is Istanbul in Turkey, which is I've probably mentioned Turkey a number of times by now. I have been to more than three countries, promise. I keep coming back to these ones. Um, yeah, I just love. I've always been fascinated with Constantinople. The ancient history and the way it's always been torn between the east and the west, and it's the gateway to Europe, but at the same time it's the gateway to Asia. And yeah, I just love the minaret dotted skyline and the food and the blood orange sunsets. It's a gorgeous place. Yeah, Istanbul for sure.
Hmm. And then speaking of food, can you describe a memorable meal that you've had during your travels?
uh Yeah, probably somewhere in Asia. I've been to Vietnam and Thailand. Those would be the countries where I felt where I was, trying dishes I couldn't even like describe the flavor. I do love Vietnamese pho. I know it's quite a mainstream dish now. But yeah, Vietnamese pho. The first time I tried it in Vietnam was, just mind blowing. The explosion of flavors and the soupy bit, and yeah, yeah, love it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of pho as well. And then what would be a dream destination?
I would love to see Japan and maybe just even like travel more around Asia. I feel I've ticked off every like North. Well, I haven't been to North America yet, but on this side of the pond, I've ticked off all nearly every country on the list and bits of North Africa, Middle East as well. So yeah, Japan, Asia would be high on my list next.
Future travel assignment.
For sure.
Um, well, thank you so much for your time today, Vinny. I'm sure that many people will take away plenty of insights from all your travel knowledge. And yeah, thank you for being the third guest this season. Thank you so much for listening to the Got a Case of Wanderlust podcast. Again, my name is Lydia, and you could find me on social media in the About section of this podcast. Please rate and review if you found value or insight from this, and I hope to see you in the next episode.